Welcome to the Greenpoint Williamsburg News Magazine. Neighborhoods Today. In this edition, our journey begins at the Greenpoint YMCA, and the focus is on change and positive improvements. Rena Marie spoke with the center's executive director and discovered there's more to the local Y than its weightlifting room. Assemblyman Joseph Lenthal joins Rena Marie for a candid discussion about the recent Mobil oil gas spill in Greenpoint. And I'm Dick Mahan. Our first segment is an in-depth interview with the Greenpoint YMCA's executive director, Barbara Kennedy. Rena Marie recently spent some time talking with Barbara about the Y, its new course for the future, and how she intends to catapult it into the 1990s.
I'm with the executive director of the Greenpoint YMCA, Barbara Kennedy, to talk about where the center has been and hopefully where it's going. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you. Barbara, you have quite a few years' experience in human services. I believe over 30 years' experience.
That's right.
Okay, and the last 10 of those years you've spent within the YMCA organization. Could you just elaborate a little on your experience?
Within the Y, or what brought me here?
All of your experience.
Okay. Well, as you pointed out, I have spent 30 years in human services, the first 20 in traditional education. I taught everything from grammar school to college, in fact, graduate school. And along about my early 40s, I had, I guess, what you could call a midlife change. I'm not going to call it a crisis. Okay. And I left education and went back to school at Teachers College to study exercise physiology, principally because I wanted to work with adults in fitness and in recreational activities. And while I was there, I got a job at the YMCA in their Cardiovascular Health Institute. I spent 3 years there. And then I went to the McBurney branch as physical director and worked there for 6 years. And from there I really came here via Staten Island.
Mm-hmm. What do you think it was in particular that led to your current position here as executive director at the Greenpoint YMCA?
Well, there were a number of things. First of all, let me say that 3 years ago, if you had asked me about being an executive director, I would have said no. That isn't what I want to do. Mm-hmm. But within the framework of the YMCA and over the last 3 years, particularly my time as associate executive at the McBurney branch, I really came to see that I could make a contribution in helping organize branch resources to deliver services to people of all ages. Mm-hmm. And I began to think about an executive job. And when this job opened up, I came out to talk with Marshall Klein, who was the previous executive, and to see the facility, and I was amazed. Mm-hmm. My recollections of it from about 5 years ago were that it was an outdated, outmoded, underutilized facility, and when I first walked in here that night to see Marshall, the place was rocking with teens, and there were adults using the new Nautilus equipment, and the place had been revitalized in the first stage of the renovation, and I thought, this is a good place to be.
What kind of qualities do you feel you've brought with you here to the Greenpoint YMCA?
Well, number one is that I have, I think, a good understanding of the mission of the YMCA, and I think that's important in YMCA work. We're not a health club. Mm-hmm. We're not a place like that. We have a mission. We're a not-for-profit organization. And I have a very goal-oriented mentality, so that when I set myself some goals or goals for the organization, I have a very firm commitment to achieving them. Mm-hmm. And I think those two qualities are essential to taking the Greenpoint YMCA from the point in which it finds itself right now, which is poised for growth and services to the community, into delivering those services. So I think those are my two prime qualities.
You just mentioned priorities and goals. How do you first begin to figure out what those priorities may be and then establish realistic goals?
Well, there are several steps in establishing priorities. The first one is really being observant, and I feel I've spent 6 months trying to get a handle on what we have here. So that's the first step. What have we got? Mm-hmm. And And the second step is to get a knowledge of the community and what else is available in the community to the people who live here. And the third is to put those things together and see what's missing so that we could provide the service. But service can't be pie in the sky. We have to be realistic about it. And so the next step, and a very key one, is to assess our resources here within the Y, staff, money, space, and match the two up and make our decision from there. What resources do we have in-house that can match the needs of the community?
Barbara, over the course of the past few months, a lot of changes have been going on here at the Greenpoint Y. Can you talk to us a little bit about those changes, the physical changes, as well as the type of programs that the Y has to offer?
Well, right now we're just recovering from, and I say that advisedly, the renovation of the lobby and the first floor area. And in doing that, we've taken what was an extensive lobby that was not utilized for anything except lounge area, and we have turned it into a brand new 2-classroom nursery school, an expanded information and membership services area, and double rooms for meetings on the other side. And we've added that to the development of the new Nautilus Center and the Youth and Teen Center downstairs.
Now, the Greenpoint Y traditionally, for the most part, has been seen as a YMCA, which is considered more than anything else a gym. And I guess I say that a little bit from experience because I'm from Greenpoint and I have been at certain points a part of the Greenpoint YMCA in one way or another. How then would you begin to change that image? And even more importantly than that, how do you begin to change that image in relation to accomplishing your short and long-term goals?
Well, I think it's very important in two ways. One, we can't let go of the fact that we are a place where teenagers and young children, school-age children, can come not just to work out, but to learn values. And I think that's what makes the YMCA different from your traditional gym-type area. We try to inculcate basic sound human values, the teaching of basic sound human values in everything we do, particularly our youth programs. So I would not want to let that go. But I do think that we need to make adjustments to serve the adult community here. The emphasis on teens, particularly in the last year, in the last several years, has resulted in diminished time for adults and, I believe, loss of adult membership. So part of our goals, and we've already made a start at this, is to do some judicious shifting in the schedule to allow more adult time in peak hours that are available for adults, which of course is after work. And then the second part of our thrust is to develop some non-physical education programs. Our target for initiating these is September of this year. That will serve the people in the community who aren't interested in a gym, but who might be interested in, for an example, a chess club. And that's an example only.
You just mentioned the adult segment of the Greenpoint community. How then do you begin to focus in on that segment and figure out exactly what it is they might be looking for?
That's the hard part of it. What do they really, what's the demand is what you're asking.
Right.
One of the things, again, is observation. You know basically what this community is constituted of. We have approximately 30% Hispanic. Would you say about 45% Polish, somewhere along that line? And with a good portion of both those populations needing English instruction. So therefore, one of the things that's on our agenda is to investigate the possibility of beginning English as a second language classes for people in the population, those two populations who would need it. Now, to do that, we've got to talk with other organizations here so that we're not overlapping services.
Right.
So it's a combination of assessing what you think the community needs and finding out whether or not those needs are being met adequately by other agencies in the community.
And my last question is, If you could send out a message to all of our viewers about the Greenpoint YMCA, what it has to offer, what it will have to offer in the future, what would that message be?
Well, that message, I guess, would be that Greenpoint YMCA has been serving this community for over 100 years continuously. And that although the targets at whom the services have been aimed, so to speak, have changed from the first days of the YMCA, the mission of the Y has never changed. Mm-hmm. And the mission of the Y is clearly to provide in the local community services that are needed by the community, and to do that as efficiently and effectively, cost-effectively for the participant as they can. Mm-hmm. And to do that regardless of race or color or creed. So that's the message I think I'd like to get out. We're here to serve the community and everybody in the community, insofar as we are able.
Barbara, thank you very much for taking a little time out of your hectic schedule to speak with us, and we wish you good luck.
Thank you, and thank you for this opportunity.
With COVID-19 contributing to more sickness and death across our nation, America's physicians have 3 simple steps you can take to stop the spread. First, wash your hands. Second, stay at least 6 feet from others. And third, mask up. At the American Medical Association, we know that following the science and evidence will protect you and your loved ones. With science, we will defeat COVID-19 together.
The textbook says politicians lead. No, sometimes the people lead, and the politicians follow. Follow the American people. They will do the right thing. There is still a right thing. Maybe right thing is a New York expression.
Mobil Oil's sprawling terminal on Greenpoint Avenue has been a permanent fixture in the community since 1834. But according to a federal study, the terminal has leaked 17 million gallons of fuel oil and gasoline since World War II. Mobil's recent discovery of another leak, 60,000 gallons of premium unleaded gasoline, has raised environmental and safety questions, as well as a few eyebrows. Rena Marie is here with Democratic Assemblyman Joseph Lentor to shed some light on this situation. Rena?
Questions surrounding the recent 60,000-gallon spill and why it happened really haven't been answered, nor have questions regarding its cleanup and possible precautionary measures to prevent future incidents. Assemblyman Lentor, from your vantage point, exactly what concerns does the community have regarding the spill, and really what's going on with the whole situation?
Well, the community concerning the spill, Rena, is, I think, in the first place, very fortunate to have had this happen, because it was actually a lucky accident, in that the accident that occurred caused the situation to be put into focus and into proper perspective. It was lucky in that it was discovered because a recovery well about 30 feet away was already in place and determined that there was gasoline flowing into the ground. Had that recovery well not been there, it might have been 1 million gallons as opposed to 60,000 gallons that first went into the ground before it was discovered. And secondly, it was lucky because it focused attention on the problem of stopping a recurrent incident from occurring in the future. Mm-hmm. And so it gave us in the community the idea that we ought to do something legislatively to prevent this from happening in the future. Mm-hmm. Thirdly, the spill was lucky because it also focused attention on the 17 million gallons that already of oil that are already in the ground that has lost attention over the past 10 years. Mm-hmm. So that a re-emphasis of attention on that lake of oil that exists right underneath us in Greenpoint has been put into focus as well.
At this point, I would like to say that Neighborhoods Today invited Mobil Oil on the program to give their perspective, and although they declined to appear or comment at this time, one of their public relations people did say once a resolution has been reached with AMCO and the Department of Environmental Conservation, Mobil would in fact like an opportunity to address the Greenpoint community right here on Neighborhoods Today. But right now I'd like to get back to a few questions here with you, if you don't mind. According to Mobil, a defective underground pipeline was responsible for the most recent spill of 60,000 gallons. Now, I'm aware you have just introduced 2 measures into the Assembly which would address the issues of underground pipelines and oil storage tanks. Could you tell us a little about your 2 proposed bills and what they mean?
Sure, quite correct. I have indeed introduced legislation that hopefully would prevent this from occurring again. The first bill is one which would require tanks to be placed above ground, as well as pipes of the kind that were used by Mobil to be placed above ground, so that a spill of this kind could be detected almost immediately on site, visually, if you will. The second proposal, and one which is more important because it's doubtful as to whether any legislation that we passed could affect existing facilities, requiring them to, meaning that we would not in all likelihood be able to require somebody who already has tanks below ground from rebuilding them above ground. But the second bill is more important because it would require an early warning system, and that could be accomplished by the Department of Environmental Conservation promulgating regulations of some kind that would employ state-of-the-art techniques so that leaks of this kind could be monitored when they happen, not after 60,000 or 1 million gallons of gasoline have leaked into the ground.
Has Mobil had any kind of reaction to the proposals?
Well, Mobil hasn't really reacted to the proposals, but I think they agree with the concept of placing pipes above ground, because they have indicated to us and to the media that they are embarking upon a program to take all of their pipes that exist now below ground and place them above ground. So I think that they believe that that is a technique that will prevent future accidents.
Now, I assume that financially this would be pretty much of an expensive proposition, not only for Mobil, but for any oil company. What kind of opposition do you expect to these proposed bills?
Well, I suspect that the first will have very stiff opposition because it will require a new reinvestment of funds in order to build new tanks and new pipes above ground. But the second proposal ought not to have as much opposition at all, because all it is saying is that we recognize that the possibility exists that leaks could occur when you have these kinds of facilities, and that an early warning device ought to be put into place, and the oil companies ought to bear the expense of doing this if they want to live as good neighbors alongside residential communities like ours.
Why do you think a measure like that, or maybe should I say measures like that, have never been taken by oil companies?
Well, I don't know, I don't really know why, except that in my conversations with Mobil, they have claimed that the state-of-the-art does not exist to allow them to do this. The information I'm getting is to the contrary, that there are ways in which these leaks can be detected and that they ought to be employed. Maybe they're expensive, but lives are more expensive.
All right, another concern is the 13.5 million gallon oil lake, which is still sitting under Greenpoint Avenue and Apollo Avenue since World War II, actually. And what responsibilities do you think a corporation like Mobil would have to a community like Greenpoint, which has set up shop here since 1834? Where are their responsibilities?
Well, I think the answer to your question lies in what you said in your question, and that is that they have lived and prospered in the Greenpoint community. Mobile has for a great number of years. And I think they ought to recognize their responsibility, and I might say they have recognized their responsibility over the years. And this particular spill, they have tried, I believe, to be as cooperative as they possibly can in an effort to clean it up as quickly as possible, and they've built new recovery wells. They have recently begun a plan to grout a sewer on North Henry Street where gas vapors were detected, so that their responsibility is clear. A moral responsibility they have to the community, as well as a legal responsibility, in my opinion.
And lastly, what do you think a situation like this says about the kind of input a community really has regarding its destiny, the direction it would like to take?
Well, I think that the community of Greenpoint has not obviously been up in arms over this issue maybe as it ought to have been. And possibly that's because the existing condition, or the lake of oil, hasn't really posed a health and safety hazard, a great health and safety hazard. There's been a risk involved, an environmental risk, but it hasn't really been a serious threat. But I think now, with, again, and that's why I said in the very beginning this was a lucky spill, the Greenpoint community, I think, is well aware of the fact that an accident like this could occur and reoccur, and there ought to be steps taken to prevent it. And that's what I think the community is most concerned about, that gasoline could be spilled at any time, anywhere, and cause a conflagration or an explosion and loss of life and property.
All right. And once again, Neighborhoods Today would like to extend its invitation to Mobil Oil to appear with us here on Neighborhoods Today to give us and the Greenpoint community their perspective on the situation. But until that time, I would like to thank you, Assemblyman Joseph Lentil, for taking a little time out and speaking with us and helping us to clarify the situation a little.
Thank you, Rena. It was a pleasure.
I love New York. We love New York.
We've been stuck inside our homes,
while our everyday heroes have been working overtime
for New York to reopen
and stay open.
We all need to do our part
and show that we care.
Look, man.
I wear a mask to protect you.
You wear a mask to protect me.
Let's all wear a mask
to stop the spread of coronavirus
and save lives.
When we show up in the mask,
we're showing up for each other.
Show your love for New York.
Because New York loves you.
Finally, we are happy to report a new addition to our staff, Angel Capolino. Angel will be reporting on the arts, theater, and entertainment world in Greenpoint and Williamsburg. As a member of our community, Miss Capolino has been a successful entertainer for many years. And what better way to introduce her than to see one of her performances? Here to sing Autumn Leaves is Angel Capolino.
Drift by
That's it for this edition. For Neighborhoods Today, I'm Dick Mahan. Thank you for watching.